So we all know that Tulsi Gabbard is in full-fledged campaign mode. She has been to New Hampshire, she's been to Iowa, she's in New York right now last time I checked, and I'm sure she will be bouncing back and forth between all three of those states all the way up until the Iowa caucus and even all the way up to the first debate, and probably even after that. With that being said, make sure that you go donate to Tulsi Gabbard's campaign at tulsigabbard.com and make sure that she gets onto that debate stage, because she does need 65,000 individual donations from at least, I believe it was 30 different states. Don't quote me on that last part, but I do know at least 65,000 different donations. But of course, if we get 65,000 different donations from every state, then that'd be perfect. So do that. I decided to say that before I continue. So with that being said, with her traveling so much, it's almost a wonder to me how she's always able to keep up with what's going on Twitter, what's going on with the Trump administration, and what's going on just in general. Because I mean, when she's part of like not these nonsensical mainstream conversations and narratives, she gets to the nitty gritty of some of the conversations and facts that other people don't want to really observe for political convenience, or because they're worried of appearing to be too fringe or appearing to be too divisive. For the most part, Tulsi has basically demonstrated that she isn't going to shy away from telling the truth to make sure that the United States is not doomed to repeat its past. And this tweet that she put out is yet another example of that. She says that we promised Libya's dictator Gaddafi, which she shouldn't really call me. I guess that Gaddafi is a little bit more like a dictator out of necessity, if you will, because the United States wouldn't leave Gaddafi alone, or Libya. And she says we promised Libya's dictator Gaddafi that if he gave up his nuclear program, we wouldn't overthrow him. He gave them up, and we blew him away. North Korea's Kim won't make the same mistake. Just another negative consequence of short-sighted regime change war policies. Honestly, like I said, it was a perfect way to address the situation. Now, this tweet, although it was written February 25th, 2019, this is talking about something that the Trump administration actually went out of its way to address and acknowledge in 2017 when this deal with North Korea was initially being discussed. Now, Coates, who was part of Trump's intelligence advisors, said that Kim Jong-un, has watched, I think, what has happened around the world relative to nations that possess nuclear capabilities and the leverage they have, and seen that having the nuclear card in your pocket results in a lot of deterrence capability. In particular, the lessons that we learned out of Libya giving up its nukes is, unfortunately, if you had nukes, never give them up. If you don't have them, get them. This isn't from me. This isn't from a neocon. This isn't from a neoliberal. This is, I mean, he's probably falling into the category one or the other. But my point is, he's basically saying, look, I mean, can we really be mad at North Korea? I mean, look at the history that we have with countries that we were beefing with at one point. We asked them to disarm themselves, and then we end up running in the place. Why do you think Iran is probably going out of its way to try to ignore us as we speak? If I was Iran, I would ignore us too. They have no incentive. We don't act in good faith. We're not good faith actors. So why would anybody listen to us? Now, in case you were curious, this is basically what happened in Libya, and I'll give a little bit of context to that before we continue. But the Intercept did a fantastic job covering this article, or covering that situation in the same article, saying that in December 2003, Libya announced that it would surrender its biological and chemical weapons stockpiles, as well as its rudimentary nuclear weapons program. So, in celebrating Libya's decision, President George W. Bush declared that the rest of the world should take away the message that leaders who abandon the pursuit of chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, which we've used all three in Cambodia, Laos, and Iraq, and Vietnam, anyway, and the means to deliver them will find an open path to better relations with the United States and other free nations. Oh, but it gets better. Paula DeSutter, Bush's Assistant Secretary of State for Verification and Compliance, explained that we want Libya to be a model for other countries. And I believe that model is, as Hillary Clinton so eloquently put it, we came, we saw, he died. That's the model that Kim Jong-un is trying to avoid. Later on in 2011, the United States and NATO conducted a bombing campaign to assist Libyan rebels in overthrowing Gaddafi. Gaddafi himself was captured by one rebel faction who apparently sodomized him with a bayonet and then killed him. George Bush wants every other nation to be a model for Libya. That situation is actually worse than what people may think. Because not only did Gaddafi give up his biological weapons, his chemical weapons, and his nuclear program, but Gaddafi actually he agreed. So he was the elected chairman of the African Union, a union similar to the EU, similar to even NATO, that basically fights every day for the sovereignty of its countries to make sure that the West stays out of it. Now, Gaddafi, once again, the evil dictator, I'm sure he wasn't a nice guy, but kind of in charge of a revolution in the middle of the American Empire. So I doubt you can't be nice or sane in order to lead in a revolution against the American Empire. It just doesn't make any sense. You would go crazy. But Africa liked him enough that he was the elected chairman. Now, in agreement with the other nations, Gaddafi voluntarily agreed to step down from power. That's often something that gets overlooked in the conversation about Gaddafi. Now, when Gaddafi agreed to step down from power, that actually is what ramped up what we saw happening in Libya. Hillary, I won't even say just Hillary, the United States in general, believe it or not, they wanted Gaddafi to stay in power. Because otherwise, you can't sow discord, you can't sow discontent, and you can't destabilize the area if there is stability in Libya or perceived stability in Libya. Once again, what's my famous saying? You don't got to believe me. Just look at history. Look at what we've done in Syria. If Assad stepped down, that would be the worst thing he could ever do, and he knows it. Because when you step down, you know what comes next. And your people, 100% of the time, if you're overthrown by the United States government, 100% of the time, your people will suffer because of it. Ask about the slave trade in Libya right now. So, Honduras is having the same problems. Venezuela is having the same problems. Brazil had the same problems and is still having some of the same problems. The list really does go on. So it's important that Tulsi calls this out for what it is. Which once again is maybe if we started acting in good faith, maybe if we started living by the ethos that we supposedly believe in and that we preach to the international community, maybe countries like Iran, maybe countries like North Korea, and maybe superpowers like Russia wouldn't feel the need to constantly build nuclear weapons. Because they weren't the ones who used them in the past. We were. Yes, Germany under Adolf Hitler did use chemical weapons, but guess what? We used chemical weapons against Vietnam. We use unenriched uranium against Iraqis to the point where it's still causing problems for our soldiers and their descendants today. So if we want true peace, then we should lead by example. And it's brilliant, once again, that Tulsi is once again displaying her competence, her superior competence when it comes to foreign relations, and understanding how all these issues are intertwined, proving once again that she will absolutely be a formidable opponent on that debate stage. And that is exactly why they are trying to keep her off. So go donate to her campaign right now, tulsigabbard.com. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. You can donate to our Patreon and keep helping the network grow by clicking on the link in the description below. And also, make sure you join us at JustNForm.com. And finally, make sure you subscribe to us on Roku and be part of the very first independent news network on Roku TV. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.